We'll get started. Good afternoon. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order on August 27th, 2024, and ask the city clerk to please call roll.
Commissioner Guest?
Present.
Commissioner Henderson?
Present.
Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Commissioner Wilson?
Present.
Mayor Bray?
Present. Could I ask anyone that's got cell phones still to silence their cell phones, please? Thank you. We'll begin with, I'll ask Commissioner Wilson to say the invocation, and we'll remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, we pause now to thank you on behalf of all of us who are gathered here for the many blessings we have. Thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work. We come today asking you for your guidance and support as we begin this meeting. Please grant us wisdom as we make decisions on behalf of our citizens and our community. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'll ask John Perkins to come up, and we have an official public hearing here for the proposed tax rate.
Good evening, Mayor, City Manager, Commissioners. The purpose of this public hearing is to give the public an opportunity to comment on the proposed 26.4-cent real estate tax levy. A hearing is required by Kentucky Revised Statutes if the proposed tax rate exceeds the compensating rate, which is 25.4 cents this year. Local government is permitted to adjust their tax rate upward by 4% above the comp rate, which is 25.4. For your convenience, I have already in advance handed out to you a history of that rate going back to 2001. The city has taken the maximum allowed only 6 times in the last 28 years. We're proposing to take the maximum allowed this year for fiscal 25. And later in tonight's meeting, the proposed property tax levy ordinance will be introduced. Staff recommends that you set the city's real estate property tax rate at 26.4, which is lower than it was in 2022 when it was 27.1. The final reading for the levy ordinance is set for September 17th. I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for John?
Hey, you might just explain what the rate is, because a lot of people hear percentages and all, but it's a mill rate, so that might be helpful.
Maybe the best way to do that would be to explain it in terms of a $100,000 assessed value on your house. And then you can multiply it any way you like. So the city collects 3 different levies: the city's rate, the junior college rate, and the independent school rate. And our rate is 26.4 cents per $100,000, basically, or $100 rather. And so on a $100,000 house, that would be $264. The junior college rate is 0.014, that's $14 on a $100,000 house. And the school rate, again, they're having their hearing tomorrow night, but I saw in the newspaper, their public hearing indicated that their rate was going to be 87.4 cents. So that would be on a $100,000 house, that's $874 on a $100,000 house. So that would be a total for people that live in the independent school district of $1,152 on a $100,000 house.
Which is like 3 times city rate?
Oh, you're talking about the school rate?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because people always call me, talk about their
Yeah.
tax rates and all, and it's like, how much, a lot of people, they just see the bottom line, but they don't realize the
Right.
city tax rate is not the big driver for that.
Right. And I appreciate that, Commissioner, because not only do they call you, they call us.
Yeah,
And we also get to see them face to face and enjoy their smiling faces, because there's only a couple of folks that, well, anyway, you're right, it is higher. It's not the city's rate, but we collect it. And the thing that confuses people probably the most is that they make the check out to the city of Paducah. And over 2/3 of it, the city does not keep. We simply turn it over to the school system.
So on the increase, I believe you had said last week, it was $8 for a $100,000 house. It's an
Yes.
$8 yearly increase.
For the whole year, yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
On the city rate.
On the city's rate.
Just on the city rate, yeah.
Yes, yes.
That's the only rate that you establish, yep.
Right.
Yeah. And you also said it's lower than it was, the rate we're taking now is lower than it was in 2022?
That's correct.
She said, so it's actually a lower tax.
And 2021 and 2020. So,
Right.
Yeah. And if
So,
you go back far enough, it's way lower.
Yeah.
yeah.
so just, somebody's raised their hand out there.
Okay, so
and-
at this point, if John's finished, then you can take public comment, that if somebody, they would come to the podium. And you,
Yeah,
they would come to the
you
podium and state
come
your
to the
name
podium.
and your address, please. And you'd have 3 minutes for your comments.
My name is Matt Baker. I live at 4260 Schneiderman Road, Paducah, Kentucky. But my family does own property in the city. And, you know, I've been blessed to be around this town. And if this is for the school, you know, are there other ways that we can get this money? Because I think we just spent a lot of money in infrastructure, but every time I go around, I see people mowing their yards and blowing the grass out into the road. You know, I mean, if we don't take care of what we got and the money that we spend, we're going to end up pricing people out of paradise. We're supposed to be known for our people and our trees. You got people here on fixed incomes that are barely getting by. Hundreds of dollars adds up. There's Christmas, there's utility bills. You know, are there other ways as a community that we could work together? Because we're supposed to be known for our trees and our low tax rate and stuff. But when we got corporations coming in here and abusing active and passive income, and not paying commercial taxes on these things and all this other stuff. I mean, there's a trickle-down effect that I see just in standing around. So are there other ways that we could fix this and not raise it on anybody? Except the people that might be doing the harm to our community, that we just spent millions and millions of dollars and still need more? I mean, you got people on bikes, I mean, wet grass, slip, more, I mean, it's common sense. So, you know, that's all I ask is there any way that we can take care of our people on fixed incomes where hundreds of dollars, just $100 might matter to somebody on down the line? You know, we're squeezing people out of paradise, one easement at a time and one tax percent at a time. If the truck stopped, where would we be as a community today? How would we feed each other and take care of each other? If we don't start looking at what we have and investing in what we have and taking care of what we have, then there's no hope. That's all I ask. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your comments. Okay, any other comments from commissioners?
Say this public hearing is now closed.
Okay, so the public hearing is now closed. And with that, we have a new employee introduction and some police department, Chief Laird.
Good evening, everyone. I'm excited to be here tonight to introduce a couple of new employees to us. One of them is brand new. The other one is, I won't call him recycled, but he's come back to us after a previous career.
That you just did.
Yeah, I did. So luckily, we've known each other for a long time, and he knows I'm in it well. So the first one that we have is Allison Blackwell. Allison has been hired to be our deflection specialist. So if you remember back in the springtime, we created a position utilizing some of the opioid funding as well to create a position to try to help folks out that are suffering with substance abuse issues as well as mental health issues to deflect them away from the criminal justice system. So Allison grew up in Cunningham, Kentucky, where she graduated from Carlisle County High School. She obtained a BA in forensic psychology from Maryville University in St. Louis, and she completed an internship with a victims advocate there, as well as working with electronic monitoring supervisor. Most recently, she worked with the St. Louis Police Department as a crisis response clinician. Allison saw this position come available and wanted to move back home to Western Kentucky, and she's excited to be here and serve our community. Next up, we have Matt Wentworth. Matt's lived in Western Kentucky his entire life. He began a career with the police department in 2001. He worked with the department for 19 years, with the majority of his time spent as a detective. He retired in 2020. He then spent 3 years working for the nonprofit ministry Idols Aside. If you're not familiar with Idols Aside, they're a ministry that focuses on fatherless youth within our region. Matt felt a calling to come back to the police department. We had recognized that we needed somebody to work with Allison, and somebody that had a lot of law enforcement experience and that had a passion for serving their community. And in some internal discussions within the department, we felt like Matt was a good person to do that, and we reached out to him, and he had actually been looking at the deflection specialist position, trying to see where he could fit in with that. So we're excited to have that deflection team put together, and Allison just started last Thursday. Matt started about a month and a half ago, getting him caught up and recertified as a police officer. So we're looking forward to what they can do for us here in the city.
Great. Welcome back. And welcome, Allison. So just to review for the folks here and the folks out there, you know, we decided as a commission to use, to take some of our opioid rebates, money that we got from, you know, the different drug companies, the legal settlements, and do something different with it to really try to make a difference in the community. And so after a lot of discussions, and we actually talked with some other cities, one in particular up east that had started this a couple of years ago. And so we decided to model this program a little bit after them, and to try to get to people in the community maybe before they hit jail, because, you know, kind of as an intervention. So deflection, you know, is another way. And so the opioid crisis that's going on, you know, really in Kentucky, a lot of different states, but Kentucky's been really bad. So I have some personal experience with it myself, and so I know that I know that if it's structured correctly, I think we can really make an impact. And so anything that I can do or the commission can do to support you guys, we're all in.
Welcome back and welcome home.
Yeah. Is there any way that we're going to be able to kind of follow strategy that we have here for the city?
Yeah, we're working on building that. We've been communicating with a lot of other agencies all across the country, trying to figure out what model is going to work best here for us. And so we're, Allison's experience working, basically doing a similar job in the St. Louis area. She had a lot of repetitions, and she's made a lot of contacts as well. So we're looking forward to see where it goes.
Yeah, I'd like to kind of follow that a little bit.
Sure.
Okay, any other comments? Thank you, Chief. Welcome. Okay, those of you who regularly attend city commission meetings know that we do a lot of proclamations. And, you know, whenever I do a proclamation, I always get a bit of a smile out there. You know, it's like another proclamation. But I just thought I'd take a second or two and just, you know, really talk about why we do proclamations. And because they seem kind of repetitive and over, but really they're designed to raise awareness in the community. I mean, there's folks out there that will watch this commission meeting, you know, tape delay, so to speak. We also put the comments out. We have a big email list out there, and so people know that when we do a proclamation, we proclaim something because we want to call attention to it because it's important. And so tonight we got a couple of proclamations, and the first one is it's awareness of September coming up is Attendance Awareness Month. And attendance in our schools is extremely important. I was watching WPSD this morning or last night, and I know that post-COVID, attendance really hasn't, in our schools, in the city and the county, has not gone back to the levels before COVID. And so what we're trying to do is raise awareness of that. And then the other proclamation is just City Government Month. So we're actually proclaiming ourselves. So Troy, if you'll come up, I'll. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
So, whereas our nation is experiencing a school absenteeism crisis, making good attendance more essential than ever to student achievement and education, and whereas students and families are more likely to show up with positive conditions for learning at school, including a sense of connection, support, academic challenges, and motivation, and whereas taking daily attendance in a consistent manner is essential to identifying when students miss too much school and reaching out as soon as possible to students and their families with needed support and resources. Whereas reducing chronic absence requires commitment to a plan that begins with prevention, early intervention, and identifying and addressing barriers to being in school. And whereas improving attendance and engagement takes schools, families, elected leaders, and other community partners working together to affirm the importance of education and attendance. Now, therefore, I, George P. Bray, Mayor of Paducah, Kentucky, hereby proclaim the month of September 2024 as Attendance Awareness Month in the City of Paducah and encourage all citizens to work together to build an engaging school environment that stresses the importance of attendance and learning. There you go.
All right, thanks, sir.
We get a picture?
Yeah.
Kids here from the
Sure,
house.
yeah. Get them all up here.
From the house system, house leaders.
Where would you like us coming up here?
Yeah, we'll come up here. All right, somebody over here.
That's fantastic. Here we go, my friends. Thank you.
Okay? Thank you. All right.
Keep up the good work. Keep up the good work.
Here, I got it. You can take that folder. I'll take that. You can take the folder.
All right.
And the next proclamation, I'm just going to read it up here. It's a proclamation for City Government Month, and it goes as follows. Whereas civic education is important to ensure Kentucky children develop an interest and an understanding of local government and their role in the community, and whereas Kentucky academic standards for social studies require instruction on citizenship and local government for entry-level elementary school children, and whereas Involving and informing students of local government programs and duties can provide an opportunity for entire families to connect with vital city services and programs. And whereas City Government Month is a civics awareness campaign that educates elementary school students about city services by providing teacher lesson plans, students coloring activity books, and classroom materials. And whereas City Government Month calls on city officials to get involved in their local schools and in educating and engaging elementary school students in city government. Now therefore, I, George P. Bray, Mayor of Paducah, hereby declare September 2024 City Government Month.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we have a presentation from Dave Carroll with Paducah Power System. Paducah Power System is our city-owned utility for electricity, and they do a great job. They work hard. A lot of things going on. We're probably going to hear a little bit about the possibility of electric charging stations at some point in time. So I don't want to preempt you, but Dave, go right ahead.
We have a number of things that we want to talk about, but that is, Mayor, that is definitely on our list. I'm going to save that one to closer to the end. I'm also at that point going to ask Rick Windhorst to come up here, who is our Chief Operating Officer, and I'll let him speak directly to the EV charging. He was our project manager, or is our project manager on that. Just a little bit of background information, because it's been a number of years since we've spoken to the commission. PPS has about 22,500 customers. We serve those customers through 10 substations and about 800 miles of distribution line throughout the community. We have 3 sources of generation. The first is Prairie State Generating Company. It's a coal-fired facility in southern Illinois, and that's about 104 megawatts. We have a natural gas plant that's actually here locally in Snideman Road, and it's about 108 megawatts. And then we have approximately 18 megawatts of hydropower from 2 different entities. So that's kind of our generation mix, coal, gas, and hydro. So, next slide. Rates. Everyone loves to talk about rates, right? We talk about taxes tonight. We'll talk about PPS rates. This is something we're really proud of. The rates that our consumers pay today here in Paducah are 6% lower than they were 10 years ago, even with all the inflationary pressures that we've seen. Now, how do we go about doing that? Basically, our focus has been on other revenue streams outside of our community to help us drive down cost. And I've got 3 of those up there. I won't bore you with all the details because I know you have quite a long agenda. But our whole goal is focusing on where else can we bring additional revenue in to offset our cost and drive rates down for our consumers here locally. So you do have a copy of the presentation. If you have any questions about these, we can talk about them later. Reliability. You can think about reliability in 2 different ways. The first way, I'm going to talk about the transmission system and the generation of electricity. So it's not here locally, it's what we're doing outside of the community to get the power here. Weather is a big factor. We are seeing a lot more volatility in our weather events. The duration of our weather events are longer, and the size of these weather events is much larger in some of the recent events we've seen. A couple of examples are Winter Storm Uri in 2021. If you'll remember, that primarily hit Texas and the central part of the U.S. Texas had rolling blackouts for weeks. 200 residents died there due to the lack of power. And then in 2022, you had Winter Storm Elliott. Kentucky is unique. There are 4 different transmission systems, 4 different grids in this state. That's highly unusual. Most states have 1, some have 2. When you look at what happened during Winter Storm Elliott, PPS fared really well. We had no blackouts, rolling blackouts here. Why is that? Prairie State Generating Plant ran extremely well during that period. Within our state, KU, TVA, and I call it PJM, but it's really East Kentucky Power, so Eastern Kentucky, all had rolling blackouts, but we did not. And what I'd like for you to take away from this is PPS is in a better position than most any utility when it comes to avoiding those type of situations, primarily due to our generation portfolio and transmission access. It doesn't mean that it can't happen. It's a lot less likely to happen in Paducah, Kentucky. Okay, next slide. I can't help but try to throw in a little educational piece. And this is from a presentation I gave to Economic Development. And this is generation by fuel source, going from 1990 to 2003. Look at coal. In 1990, coal was 55% of all the energy in this country. Today, it's less than 20. That's concerning because that directly affects reliability. So what's replacing coal? Solar and renewable to some degree, but much less than natural gas. So we're building gas plants left and right, closing coal plants. We are bringing on some solar wind. So there's your educational point for today. Okay. Talk a little bit about locally reliability. We have all kinds of indexes, and I'll let Rick tell you what this one, the initials mean. But 99.9945% of the time, Paducah Power Systems customers have energy. That means 29 minutes out of the year, you're without electricity on our system. That's one of the highest in the country, by the way. That's something that we should be proud of as a community. So our rates are heading in the right direction. Our reliability is one of the top in the country. Bitcoin miners, a lot of talk about those. I will tell you that from a utility perspective, it is a positive thing. We talk about additional revenue streams from the outside, driving down cost. That's what Bitcoin miners are to us. I do want to publicly say that. It is good for our ratepayers, okay? And then Rick, we'll get to the stuff that maybe we were invited to talk about. And I'll turn it over to Rick Windhorst.
So a little bit about EV, it's on the next slide, our electric vehicle readiness plan. As an engineer, I looked at the plan as making sure that our system is able to supply the need of, if we're going to plug up all these electric vehicles, how's that going to affect our grid? Are we going to be able to handle that? And what the study said is yes, we will be able to, we'll be fine there. If your neighbor has an EV and you have an EV and you're both fed off the same transformer in your neighborhood, we may have to change that out, but it's not like we have to build a substation. We're going to have to build new lines throughout town. That's not what we're talking about. It also gave us ideas about when will this ramp up? When will this happen? Kentucky is going to be a slower adoption, but we can look at other states and see how they adopted and know that as we start to adopt, this is what our ramp up rates will look at. The other thing we had to look at was what we have to pay attention to are big fleets. Say UPS or the city public schools decide we're going to get 10 electric buses. Those are different to charge than just a vehicle. So we would definitely like to talk to those people. If you own a business or something where you're talking a large fleet, that's something we need to talk about ahead of time, be able to plan ahead and make sure that we can meet that need. Also on there, we have, go back. There's an advisory program that we're going to try to be able to assist people on what do they need for infrastructure. And that's at your house if you're just buying a vehicle and you want a charger there, and also for the community. One thing I would say is it does talk a little bit of rates there where we have time of use we're going to be working at, and that's to help. If you're going to plug your vehicle at home, let's have it come on at night when power prices are lower, our demand's lower, and we don't want to have any cross subsidy where, you have an electric vehicle and these people don't. They don't want to feel like, hey, I'm having to pay for something that you're supplying to them. That's not what we're going to do. But there's the possibility that down the road, 2030, 50% of the vehicles made, or at the time we're saying now, are going to be all electric. So in 2030, as people are buying new vehicles, 50% of those will be all electric. If they started charging at night and using this power at night that we have available that's not being used a lot right now, they could actually drive costs down for everyone if we manage it right. So, I mean, it could be a good thing for all of our customers. As far as you were talking about charging stations, that is on the plan. We've talked with business owners about, hey, maybe I'd like to have a charging station at my business to help bring in customers. And how do I go about that? Does it go behind the meter I already have now? Who pays for, the setup? So those are the things we're working out, and that was part of the plan, and that's something we're going forward now, starting to talk with that process. And even in city green spaces and things like that, in the future, as we build those, at least have provisions for conduit, so we're not coming in later and tearing up sidewalks or parking lots because we're trying to get conduit in. Those type of things is what we're looking at. The last slide, we're going to talk a little bit about fiber to the home. And I guess the first question would be, why would Paducah Power do fiber to the home? Well, Paducah Power has been doing fiber and providing services for over 20 years now for the business sector. The school systems in Western Kentucky, not just Paducah, we serve a lot of those with our fiber system. We actually serve the city with our fiber. You guys have probably hundreds of connections across the city. Think of your buildings, your pump stations, cameras, parks, everywhere that you have connection. We've helped facilitate that. And we save the city about $70,000 a year in internet costs. The only thing we bill is what the actual internet usage that you use, and everything else we pass along. So over the life of that, it's almost been $1 million savings to the city. The vast majority of a fiber project is going to be outside plant. It's going to be poles, wire, services, working out in the right of way. And that's something that we do every day, and we do that well. The other reason that it's a good time for us to do that is we no longer have to come up with a cable channel lineup. We don't have to worry about, getting a TV channel lineup. We don't have to worry about a landline phone at home now because people just don't have those. So we can provide internet to the house, and they can, more and more people are comfortable. I'll do streaming. I'll get whatever I want from there. And the last thing is we have a lot of people asking. We have people asking us all the time. They like the reliability that we have on the power, and they like the customer service that we provide because we're local. And they're not getting that with their local or their current providers. So the last I would say was we're doing a phase one that was help us understand how to do it internally, get our processes right. And the second part was helping us get the information together about what does it cost? What does it cost to do a service? What does it cost to get this out in the community? And what are the take rates? So that'll help us go back to our board and say, is this a viable business plan that we can do that doesn't get subsidized by the electric side, that it can stand alone? And hopefully we'll be able to do that and then be able to move forward with some fiber, hopefully throughout our service area in the future. Yes, sir.
Just a couple of comments. One of them is that I don't think that you all really promote your reliability as much as you should. I mean, got a son that lived in Memphis a couple of years ago, summertime, hot day. They were having, a really hot day, having to curtail their energy usage. House is getting hot. Here we never have those kind of issues, and I think sometimes you need to let people know that because, we're kind of in our own little bubble here. Sometimes we just don't know that we do have it as good as we do, so that would be good. Also, on the internet stuff, I think that would be great as you roll that out because, it's kind of like local shopping local to be able to procure internet access through our local power system. So, thank you. That's very good.
I agree with what Buzz said, that I do heating and air, and a place that I buy, they have branches in St. Louis, and they have blackouts all the time. I'm not gonna knock a thermostat, but if it flashes, your unit's running, well, that's not a good thing to shut off, and it needs to shut off for 3 to 5 minutes, and they lose compressors. It's a big thing. So, you just take for granted that you turn your light switch on, it's always gonna be there, and your air conditioner's always gonna work. And, I agree with what Buzz said.
I have a comment and then a couple of questions. So, first of all, I just wanted to commend you and the team, Dave, on all the work that you put in to get our rates down. If you all think back to 15 years ago, I can't remember the exact time, there was a lot of bad.
We remember well.
We went through a lot of nasty stuff, really. And Paducah Power came under a lot of criticism. There was investigations, potential lawsuits. You name it, it was out there. And so what you guys have done is you've kept your eye on the prize, I believe, and you've focused on managing those rates down as best you can, and you've done it through other means. And so I think that shows a lot of creativity, and I just wanted to commend you on it and say thank you. The other thing I got a couple questions. The chart that you showed up there about where energy was going to come from in the future.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of discussion in the community about nuclear in our community right now. We're a nuclear-ready community. Those are very much long-term plans, but if you were to project out, let's say, another 10, 15, 20 years, what do you think this chart looks like? There's a lot of discussion about coal. We're reducing our reliance on coal.
Yeah.
There's a debate out there whether that's good or bad. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Reduction in CO2 emissions, obviously, across this country has been very important. And there have been tremendous reductions in CO2 emissions already, primarily because of the reduction in coal. Some of that's being replaced by renewable. Gas, while good, emits CO2, but not as much as coal. Nuclear, however, just as reliable, if not more so, than coal, with no CO2 emissions. More expensive option. But if you're looking for reliability, and I'll call it sustainability, no CO2 emissions, nuclear is probably your best choice as a country. So if we're serious about reducing CO2 emissions and reliability is important to us, nuclear will increase in the future. Right now, the nuclear technology is one of the most expensive fuel sources, but hopefully with time and new development, some of the small nuclear modular reactors, we'll call them, SMRs, hopefully that cost will come down over the next 10 to 20 years. But I think it's going to play a bigger role in the future.
Okay. That's very helpful because, a lot of us spend a lot of time on this whole nuclear, issue, day to day. And my last question has to do with this electric vehicle rates. What I don't understand is, or I don't own an electric vehicle, but I wonder if people are wondering this. Of course, we got the gas tax issue, you know, where that the more fuel-driven vehicles, the more they come off the road, and there's less fuel tax, you know, to fund our roads. So that potentially is a crisis in the future that's going to have to be addressed. But what I don't understand is the cost to operate an electric vehicle versus a gas vehicle, and the cost of electricity and where that comes in. And if you go to, you're driving to Lexington and you stop in at Walmart in Elizabethtown and you plug in, you know, what does it cost you to charge your vehicle, I guess, to some degree, versus filling it up with a tank of gas? And then what does it cost you at night, as you say? I mean, when somebody just plugs into a slow, just regular outlet, or however it's configured, is it you just pay for electricity as you use it? I'm just wondering if you could educate us on that a little bit.
Sure. There's 3 levels of chargers, 1, 2, and 3. 1 is just like a 110 outlet. Now, it's going to take forever to charge off a 110 outlet. But people do that in this community already. A level 2 is faster. That's what I think most people will have at their home. That's what I think you'll see at most businesses that are trying to attract people to come in, saying you can charge while you're here. And the last is level 3, that's DC fast charging. So you're looking at 20 minutes probably. So you can think of those as more like your traditional gas stations. Rate-wise, if you go to a level 3 charger, the cost is going to be significantly higher than level 1 or level 2 because it takes a whole lot larger transformer to serve that, but it's still cheaper than gas. It's still more efficient than a gasoline engine cost-wise. And most people will do 90% or more of their charging at home. So my higher cost DC fast charging, I'm only using 5 to 10% of the time. The rest of my charging comes at home at night, and it's going to be significantly cheaper. So I think that's what we see.
Okay. All right, that's helpful. And do we know EV usage in the city or in the community? We have any feel for numbers on that at this point?
They actually gave us in that study the number of EVs in our community, but I don't recall them off the top of my head. It was more than we thought, but not a great number. But I think we were a little surprised. We weren't aware that there were as many as there were.
Okay.
Thank you all. I'm the city representative on your board, so I appreciate that opportunity to do that. And I think you all do a great job, so thank you.
I appreciate it.
Yep.
And Dave, if I may, just, and you and Rick and your whole team, we're working on a project collaboratively there on Walters Yuton. We appreciate where that's going to add the lights and the safety down the boulevard. We appreciate the partnership there, and we're excited to see that come to fruition.
Thank you. We're happy to work with you all on any project.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Okay, before we move into the agenda, I just want to recognize a group of ladies that are here tonight with Alpha Kappa Alpha, a sorority that's very active in the community. And I've been knowing these ladies for some time, and I just want to call out the work that they do in the community, which we're very appreciative of. I know they have a lot of things that they work on, but, they support vulnerable populations out there, city schools, churches, organizations. They address critical needs in the community. They collaborate, they make donations, and they collaborate with lots of groups to interface with the community. And the reason I want to call them out, or any group really, is that we need engaged citizens to help drive this community forward. And I wanted to thank Alpha Kappa Alpha for being here. You look wonderful in green. And I've got a letter of recognition. If you come up, we'll take a picture.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you all for being here.
Thank you, ladies.
Okay, City Manager, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Mayor, yes, this evening with the commission's approval, would like to add a municipal order to accept funds from the Kentucky Fire Commission, and we would place that on the agenda in front of the ordinance adoption.
Okay, and it'll be explained at that point, right? Okay, great. Okay, items, so we'll move to the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the Board of Commissioners and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. The city clerk will read the items recommended for approval unless any commissioner would like an item removed for separate discussion. I'll ask the city clerk to please read the items for approval.
Approve minutes for the August 13, 2024 Board of Commissioners meeting. Receive and file documents. Reappointment of Bob Wade to the Paducah Planning Commission. This term shall expire August 31, 2028. Reappointment of Anthony Walton and appointment of Charles Gurley to the Paducah Human Rights Commission. These terms shall expire July 25, 2027. Personnel actions. A municipal order authorizing the purchase of solid waste dumpsters, lids, and replacement parts in an amount not to exceed $150,000 from Waste Quip through the HGAC Purchasing Group for FY25 for utilization by commercial businesses within the City of Paducah, and authorizing the mayor to execute all documents related to same. A municipal order accepting the donation of real property located at 1128 North 13th Street and 1104 Ellis Street from Christopher Helm, Thomas Eric, and Elizabeth Helm to the City of Paducah, and authorizing the mayor to execute the deed consideration certificate. A municipal order declaring the real property located at 1314 Oscar Cross Avenue, Paducah, Kentucky, to be surplus property, transferring the property without compensation to Paducah Alliance of Neighbors for economic development purposes, and authorizing the mayor to execute the deed and all documents related to same. A municipal order adopting contract modification number 2 to the contract with HDR Inc. for professional engineering design and construction administration in an amount of $30,000, and authorizing the mayor to execute the contract modification and all other documents related to same.
So moved. Second.
Call roll, please.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson? Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. We have one ordinance.
You want to read the municipal order that we added to the agenda?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. We did add a municipal order, so please go ahead and read it, City Clerk.
A proposed motion that the Board of Commissioners adopt a municipal order entitled, "A Municipal Order Authorizing the Receipt of $3,500 from the Kentucky Fire Commission for the use of acquiring personal protective equipment, PPE, and authorizing the mayor to execute all documents related to same."
So moved.
Second?
So, Mayor and Commission, earlier this afternoon, I got a call from Chief Kyle alerting us to a pleasant surprise that the Kentucky Fire Commission had some leftover funds from a project they had done to where they had provided personal protective equipment to fire departments across the state. Those leftover funds were allocated then out to various fire departments, and we were the recipient of $3,500 for us to acquire additional personal protective equipment for our fire department. And so in order to receive those funds, we just need your approval to accept them.
I think you got it.
Is that
Call-
a motion?
You need a motion?
Accept.
Yeah, we did that. We just
Okay,
need a
all
roll
right.
call.
Call roll, please.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. So we have one ordinance to adopt. It's the medical cannabis zoning text amendment. And I'll ask the city clerk to please read and see if the commissioners have any questions.
A proposed motion that the Board of Commissioners adopt an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance of the City of Paducah, Kentucky, amending Section 126 of the Planning and/or Zoning Ordinance relating to medical cannabis." This ordinance is summarized as follows. This ordinance regulates land use applicable to medical cannabis businesses in the City of Paducah, including zones in which licensed businesses may operate as dispensaries, cultivators, producers, and safety compliance facilities. This ordinance places reasonable limitations on medical cannabis businesses in geographic location as well as in advertisement.
So moved.
Second.
So we read this ordinance for the first time 2 weeks ago. I think we're all pretty clear on it, but just make sure there's no questions. Okay, I'll ask the city clerk to please call roll.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. So we're introducing two ordinances tonight. The first one is the proposed tax rates for next year, which we've previously held a hearing on, and I'll ask the city clerk to please read that ordinance.
A proposed motion that the Board of Commissioners introduce an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance Fixing the Levies and Rates of Taxation on All Property in the City of Paducah, Kentucky, Subject to Taxation for Municipal Purposes and for School Purposes for the period from July 1, 2024 through June 30, 2025, with the purposes of said taxes hereunder defined." The purpose, general fund of the city, rate per 100, real property, .264, personal property except inventory, .356, motor vehicles and watercraft, .390, school purposes, Paducah Junior College, real estate, .014, personal property except inventory, .013, motor vehicles and watercraft, .031, total tax rate per 100 real property, .278. Total tax rate per 100 personal property, .369. Total tax rate per 100 inventory, .000. Total tax rate per 100 motor vehicle and watercraft, .421. Property taxes levied herein shall be due and payable in the following manner. In the case of tax bills which reflect an amount due of less than $2,000, the payment shall be due on November 1, 2024, and shall be payable without penalty and interest until November 30, 2024. In the case of all other tax bills, payment shall be in accordance with the following provisions. The first half payment shall be due on November 1, 2024, and shall be payable without penalty and interest until November 30, 2024. The second half payment shall be due on February 1, 2025, and shall be payable without penalty and interest until February 28, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, we'll move to the next ordinance introducing, which is the independent school district tax rates, which is not our tax rate, it's the school's tax rate, and we simply collect it for the city school system. City Clerk, please read.
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to introduce an ordinance entitled, an ordinance authorizing the City of Paducah to collect taxes for the Paducah Independent School District for the period from July 1, 2024 through June 30, 2025. This ordinance is summarized as follows. The Board of Education of the City of Paducah, Kentucky, pursuant to the authority vested in it under its charter and under the laws of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, has adopted a resolution and budget levying an ad valorem tax on all real property in said city, subject to taxation for school purposes. Pursuant to said resolution, the Board of Education budgets and levies the following taxes for the period of July 1, 2024 through June 30, 2025, an ad valorem tax of 87.4 cents on each $100 assessed valuation of all real property subject to taxation for school purposes in the City of Paducah, Kentucky, and an ad valorem tax of 87.4 cents on each $100 assessed valuation of all personal property subject to taxation for school purposes in the City of Paducah, Kentucky, for the support and maintenance of the public schools of said city shall be collected by the city for the Board of Education. Purpose, Paducah Independent School District, real estate, rates per 100.874. Personal property, including inventory, rates per 100.874. Taxes authorized to be collected shall be due and payable as set forth in the ordinance for setting tax levies for the City of Paducah for FY 2025 as adopted.
So moved. Second.
Okay. From there, we move, the next item on the agenda is a discussion item, and so I'm going to ask Greg Gubert to come up and talk about the city's paving program for the current fiscal year. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioner, City Manager, City Clerk. So oftentimes we receive lots of questions from the community with regards to what drives our street rehabilitation program. How's that process work? So that's the point here tonight, is to have a little presentation to help walk through some of the factors that go into that process. In 2021, the city contracted with BFW Engineering to oversee our pavement management program, PAVER. This program consists of inspections of all city streets over a 5-year period. So BFW inspects these streets, 20% of them each year. We're entering year 3, so at the end of this year, we'll have 60% of the streets inspected by BFW, with the goal of the software assigns a PCI value to these streets that helps inventory and prioritize your streets to help guide through the process of which streets need attention prior to others. The goal is helping to develop a plan that your rehabilitation efforts can outpace the deterioration of your streets, which is always an ongoing battle. But the paver program is not the only factor that plays a part in determining our street rehabilitation program. Traffic impact is another condition. Some streets have higher traffic levels than others, so they take more abuse, but they also have a higher priority of needing to be rehabilitated to help facilitate the flow of traffic. There's also coordination with utility companies is a big factor to know. A street may say, according to the pavement index that this street needs to be paved. But if we know from working with the utility companies in the area that they have their own capital improvement projects that are going to be coming through that area in the near future, it maybe isn't a good idea to go ahead and pave that street now, only for it to be cut for a project a year later. In that same line, new economic development or construction projects. If we know there's a project going on in an area and certain roads may be involved with that project and receive heavy truck traffic that's going to tear up the road, then it doesn't make sense to pave that road until after the project. Subdivisions and neighborhoods, quite often it's best practice if we know that there are streets within the same neighborhood that need to be addressed, it makes sense to tackle those streets at the same time instead of only doing a handful of streets and then coming back a couple of years later to do the rest. It's a better use of the resources to tackle the neighborhood as a whole. And then always there's the budget. That's going to drive how much work can be done. That's going to be impacted by market prices. And that's going to dictate how much work we can do in a given year. And with that in mind, here's a graph for the last 5 fiscal years of what the city's contribution has been to our paving program. You can see in fiscal year 2021, this contribution was $600,000. And now this current fiscal year of 2025, that number has increased to $2 million. That is very important in our efforts to try, as I talked about earlier with the paver program, the goal is that at some point your rehabilitation efforts are able to catch up with and stay ahead of the deterioration rate. This is a step in the right direction. So we thank you for that. This is very big help with working towards those goals. And so with all those factors in mind, this map here, and you have copies in front of you, this is our current fiscal year 2025, so July of 2024 through June of 2025. These streets that are highlighted in green are the streets that we are currently working on as part of our street rehabilitation program. Some of these streets have already been completed this year. Some are in the process, some have yet to begin work, but the goal is to tackle all the streets on this map. This map here is the following fiscal year. This is what we currently project for fiscal year 2026. So that would be July of 25 through June of 26. Something else I'd like to draw attention to as part of both maps, if you noticed, the streets are spread throughout the community as another factor that, while still trying to keep in mind, working within the same neighborhood and the benefits of from a mobilization standpoint of working within a neighborhood, we want to spread the projects throughout the community so that not all work is focused in just one area. It's a chance to try to help across the entire community. And so with that, all the information that was in this presentation and more is available on our city website. If you go to the engineering department, go to streets and right-of-ways, you can find all this information, including the one exception would be those 2 maps. In place of that, we have a dynamic GIS map that would allow you to access that just like you would the public map or the utility maps, any of those. It shows all the streets. It looks a little different, but it has all the streets that are planned for the next 2 fiscal years and identifies where they are, what the length of that segment is, and so forth. With that, any questions?
To give an idea about how much this $2 million, can we equate $2 million will pave X miles of road? And how many roads are there in the city of Paducah? I'm just trying to get an idea of what, if we keep up with the program, how much does it really take to spend? I know the costs will go up each year, but you know where I'm getting at?
Yeah, and it's it's very difficult to provide a hard set number because one of the things you have to consider is every road is going to be different. The right-of-way width is going to be different, and that's going to dictate whether there's sidewalk or not. That's something else that has to be considered. In the process, you know, you could kind of boil everything down to asphalt work and concrete work, and that not only drives your decision-making from a cost perspective, but also a timing perspective. It's much quicker and simpler if you're going into an area just to do asphalt work versus also having the concrete. Like I said, the right-of-way width, the width of those lanes makes a very big
So,
difference.
just assuming that 2025 was a typical example of the roads, widths, sidewalks and all that, I'm just trying to get an idea, what does it take to stay ahead?
Just so you, just a
Like if a
rough
road lasts
example.
20 years, does $2 million a year replace that road in every 20 years? Or is it under, is it over? You know what I'm,
Yeah, I don't think it does.
yeah.
Yeah.
I know Rick had told me that like Broadway had been paved at least twice in the last 20 years, but he informed a couple of streets that had never been paved.
Yes, we have
Yeah.
some,
Yeah,
absolutely,
and I
that
won't
come up a
mention those
lot more
streets, I don't want their
frequently.
streets paved, but,
Yeah.
and I'm sure they know it, but yeah, so
And my question may not be, I mean, I'm hitting you cold on that, so maybe this isn't the right, I mean, you might have to go back and do some work. I'm just trying to figure out if we are, with this greater amount that we're spending, are we still behind? Do we need to increase it, you know? I'm just trying to get a feel for
Yeah.
what we're doing.
That's something we can look at more in depth, and we can
That'd be
show you
great.
even some examples of current streets in the plan, what, you know, the budget number may have been for this street versus another street. And, you know, those are just estimates, but they can be, they can help guide and give ideas.
And I don't need like detail, I just want to know, in your opinion, you know, or do we need to be spending more, or are we keeping up now at this higher level? Are we still running behind, or just what, so?
Well, if I
Yeah.
might, also, it's, you know, I think it's really interesting for the public to understand also is that instead of thinking about it in number of miles, we actually do things in blocks. And so if you think about in relationship, because we really don't go out and pave in a general area, a mile of streets,
Yeah.
you know, it'd be this block, 1 or 2 blocks.
I don't really care how we do it, I just,
Sure.
whatever parameter we use to calculate it, I'd like to.
Yeah, and the other side of that is also the availability of the workforce that we contract out with. That is also a limiting factor. They can only do so much in a given year. But we can definitely get an estimate, you know, be a broad-based estimate based on if we're doing asphalt work and we're only having to do 1 milling versus 2 milling and the depth that we have to cut down. And we can average that out. We can get that data over the last couple of years and get a ballpark. I mean, it's not going to be a true because there are so many factors in it, but we can definitely get that information for you.
Thank you.
I'd just like to make a comment. I think we've heard portions of what you said earlier in your presentation before, and that is that based upon how often a street is traveled can determine how often it is paved. And so it is possible that we could have one area of town that is paved a couple of times and another area that is not paved at all. And so I think it's important that we find a way that we inform the public as to how that's done. Because,
Calculated.
sorry?
Calculated.
Yes, how all that's calculated, because sometimes it appears that one area is being catered to, whereas another area is being ignored. And though we know that's not the case, I just think the public needs to know and understand how all that's calculated so they won't have those kinds of ill thoughts.
Yeah, I just want to point out really kind of how far we've come a little bit. You know, I mean, a year ago, 2 years ago, even a year ago, we really were not equipped to talk about this in this kind of depth. And so I think we've come a long way. But I think, you know, the commission's interest is to make sure the roads that need to be paved, get paved. Within the budget, obviously, we can't, we have to manage through that, but, the additional money that we put into the road program this year was very intentional. Because I think we all get feedback from the community. I noticed that West Jefferson is on this map, and I don't know when it was last paved. It's got a lot of travel, but I've been hammered pretty good by a lot of people about West Jefferson. And then I think in the next year, the rest of Jefferson, if I'm reading this map right.
Yes, from 16th to 28th.
Right. So I think that's real progress, and I think people out there in the community need to understand that we're really trying to take a thoughtful approach to this. 2 years ago, we wouldn't know where the next street was going to be paved. It was really kind of based on, somebody knew, but we didn't. And so.
There was a plan. We might not have known it. It wasn't as sophisticated as this.
Agree with you.
Well, right. And if that plan changed, we didn't know about it. So, but anyway, I'm just calling out, I think we're in a much better place. I think we're going in a good direction, and I appreciate your efforts on this, Greg, and I think this is important to, I've had conversations with people. We've got a tax rate, that we have to vote on in 2 weeks. And people out there in the community want to see that our money is not only used for projects, but also for infrastructure needs. And that's paving, that's sidewalks, it's improvements that improve their quality of life. So I think this is very important, to keep the commission, kind of informed about things. Any other comments?
My comment is this isn't as exciting as some of the other projects we do. But really, it's a good comment, Mayor. People do, when they pay the property tax, they think, well, how's my road being taken care of? So that is important that we do this. And you do as much as you can with the money that you're given. So kudos to you. But, I do think us as a commission, we need to continually look at funding street pavement projects till we get the streets caught up. So thank you.
Appreciate you.
And I'll just brag a little bit on Greg and Brandy. Brandy's out in the field on the day and kind of overseeing these projects and working with our contractors on that. But
Mystery woman.
And, but when we sat down through the budgetary process this last year and began looking at that, they did a deep dive on that. They did a lot of research to figure out not only what that PCI was talking about, but what you're talking about, all of it, is where's the heavier traveled roads? What does that look like? And they were really intentional about when we talked about through the budget. And it's like, this is the amount of money that we really need to start making a dent on it. And, while we always want to be good stewards of the public dollars, I think we'd be doing, just personally opinion, that in any future budget I have a hand in dealing. We're not going to go backwards, bringing you a recommendation to go backwards from where we are today in the street program. So, thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Appreciate it very much. Okay, City Manager, any comments?
I just want to remind folks that we do have a holiday schedule next week with the Labor Day holiday, and so we do have some services and closures, and just we've published that out. Pam's done a good job of getting that word out, but just as a reminder of the holiday.
Okay. Commissioners, any comments? Okay, we do have an executive session tonight, and I'll ask the city clerk please to read the motion.
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to go into closed session for discussion of matters pertaining to the following topic: a specific proposal by a business entity where public discussion of the subject matter would jeopardize the location, retention, expansion, or upgrading of a business entity as permitted by KRS 61.810, subsection 1, subsection G.
So moved. Second.
Call roll.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bay?
Aye. And we will have an announcement after executive session.
Yeah, you bet. It's the city.
We're back in session, right? Are we
Yeah,
back
just,
in?
Yes, just make sure that we've got, looks like all the videos on, and so, yep, we return to regular session.
Okay, I'm not going to read this, this press release, but we are announcing tonight that we're dissolving our partnership with Wayland Ventures, you know, commonly referred to as the City Block Project. And, you know, from our perspective, we've been working through for a long time, try to bring this, this project to fruition. And at the end of the day, after pressing them very hard to make a decision, you know, they chose not to move forward. And so the press release outlines, you know, kind of a little bit our next steps, but downtown is extremely important to us. We're going, the TIF, the $20 million TIF hurdle, we're going to make without the hotel. There's all kinds of downtown development going on. This is outlined in it as well. We're talking to a hotel very close to the convention center that we believe will happen. And there's more than one group of investors that's looking at the U.S. Bank building. So we believe that that the future development of downtown and the future prospects for downtown are very bright. But we're unraveling our agreement with Wayland, and that'll take a little bit of time. But we have language in our agreements that protect us and make sure that we can get our land back, and we are going to get it back. And we actually only transferred, you know, one piece of property to them. So the piece of property on Broadway is never transferred, and we're going to immediately take a look at how we can improve that lot and upgrade the parking, and you know, we're gonna work through that, but we're gonna take a look at that right away. And that is my statement.
I'd just like to,
Any commissioners?
I want to thank you, Mayor, because you have worked very hard on this, and it's been a long time that you've been involved in this, and really appreciate your hard work on it.
Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, David and I were just talking. I mean, you know, we were working with this project when I decided to run for mayor. And the agreement was signed, you know, prior to that time. And so we did our best to make it go. And it didn't happen. So we got lots of great things going on in downtown. We're super excited about the future, and lots of potential. Anybody else? David, anything?
I'm good. No,
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Yeah, motion to adjourn?
I made one.
Second, could I have a
I'll
second?
yeah.
Call roll, please.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. Anybody want one of these? You guys want one of these?
Yeah, you give me one. Fine,